Now we are on the Gamescom 2025, and that's actually our first video from the Gamescom, and upcoming in our channel, of course, or in both of our channels, more videos. But for now, I'm here at Urban Games, and with me is
Sam Bennett. I'm the community manager at Urban Games.
And now we are going to look at the news of Transport Fever 3. So, what we got here?
That is a ship. So Transport Fever, many people would think about a transport game and they're going to think, oh, it's all about trains. Sure, we've got lots of trains in there, but we also cover shipping and road vehicles and aircraft, and we cover that for 150 years of rail and transport history. So what we're looking at right now, this is a sand excavator out at sea. This is one of the new features that we've got with the new game, is that we actually have water-based, so offshore industries that are working with the new game. Oh, we've switched to a lumber mill. Super.
Actually, let's just go back and have one more question about the excavator, because I've heard that you have a new growth mechanic, and this is actually something which is crucial for these kind of industries.
It is, yes. So raw material producers will expand over time the more you make use of them. So with the sand excavator, as you can see on the screen, you've got that marked area where they're excavating sand from. The more we dig out, the more we need to take. So like with this sand excavator, the more you make use of it, the more different areas it will need to harvest from. So you start out and it's just got one gathering area where it's excavating sand. But if you make lots and lots of use of it, it will add more and more areas around the outside. So you have to be very careful when planning out routes, particularly on land, to make sure that you don't overlap with areas that might be used to expand production in the future.
Okay, yeah, that will, of course, I mean, here it's also a thing, if we are building a big harbor or something, that we can also limit the space we have.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Harbour side is very important, particularly when dropping things off. There is a sense that we've built into the game. A lot of our players in Transport Fever 2 liked building up big freight cargo hubs, which would integrate rail and shipping and trucks. And so we've taken that idea and run with it further by making logistical hubs part of the game now, to really reward players who want to plan ahead and send out their goods from a centralized location. So with a port, for example, you don't just want enough space for one ship to come in. You might expand it later to handle 5, 6, a dozen ships, all unloading simultaneously before being transported using other vehicle types.
Okay, yeah, well, that was actually already a good part of Transport Fever 2, that you could customize your stations and make them really, really big. So that will be, of course, another part here again. And yeah, now one of the new things we have is that the industries and the transportation system has some part that you can configure on your own, like you can configure these connections with your own warehouses and things.
That's right. I mean, the important thing that what we really wanted to do with the new game was make it so that the Tycoon element of the game was much more involved and had the ability to be as challenging as players wanted it to be. With the previous games, it could sometimes feel like once you'd cracked it, once you'd got the basic idea of how to make a profit, you could make unlimited amounts of money. So now we've made it so that you do need to put a little bit more thought into it if you want to grow at such a rapid speed. So with industries, for example, we've doubled the different industry types that are available, and we've made it so that transportation time and loading speeds and the specialization of warehouses and vehicles is one of the major considerations you're going to want to have.
Is this actually manageable without getting lost in micromanagement?
You have the choice to micromanage as much as you want. So you can simplify the mechanics. If you want to play with no money at all and you just want to make what is called Schönbau, which is beautiful constructions, then you can totally do that. You can play with no money at all, or you can scale up the amount of micromanagement that you want to do according to how you want to play. If you want to play with the maximum level of challenge, you can crank everything up and really get into the heavy details of running your network.
Okay, one other thing that we have new that we are actually seeing here, timestamp 3/28, is that we have helicopters.
Helicopters, absolutely, introduced for the first time. Now, I mean, modders have added helicopters to the game in the past, but of course, with the game not properly supporting them, they never had a true purpose. It was almost like they were used as sky taxis. But in the new game, you have the opportunity to use helicopters both for transportation and, more importantly, for taking workers to those offshore industries like oil rigs or like the sand excavators. You could, if you wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it, use the transport helicopters to bring oil back from an oil rig. It's probably not the fastest way to go. And then, of course, you can use them for transportation to higher elevations on the map. So our mountains are now taller than they've ever been before. So if you've got a settlement at the top of the mountain, helicopter's the best way to get people there.
So here's one thing where I just pressed on pause by 3:51. We have a new menu here with some new details about the industry. And well, we already had this in Transport Fever 2 that industries are leveling up, but something has changed here.
We've changed quite a lot and we're still changing it. I mean, it's worth bearing in mind that the footage you're looking at right now is from the beta, and fixing the menu systems and the UX overall is one of the things that we're focusing on as the final stage of development, because we want to make sure that whatever you're interacting with never interferes with what you want to do. If you can think it, you can do it, and the menus should never get in the way of you actually doing what it is that you want to perform. The big change that you've probably noticed here is that our factories now have inbuilt storage and distribution centers. So you can pull a truck directly into the factory to load it up and then take it elsewhere. It's a very inefficient way of doing it, but when you're first starting the game, it can make all the difference because you're not having to buy truck stops or fit stations that you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford.
Well, one other thing that we can see here is that there is this booster menu that now says 0 of 10 people, and then it says plus 80%. So that's even higher. It's new that that we can get people into this place, and it's actually quite helpful if we do.
Very much so. And again, it's an optional extra. So to start with, any factory is probably going to be delivering as much material as you need. You know, raw materials are going to be fine. The production of those materials is going to be fine. But instead of opening a fresh facility, you might want to push the capacity of the vehicle of the industries you're already working with even further than they do by default. By delivering extra workers, they can increase the amount of productivity you get. And with different industries, there are different supporting products that you can take as well, like machine tools to help that factory produce faster still. So you think not only about the material that you're producing itself, but also about how can you then maximize it. So you'll end up with multiple different routes going to your factories instead of just one.
And this screen here now, that reminds me about that you have also changed a little bit about the building menu and how we can build roads and tracks. We've changed it and it's still changing. Again, what we're trying to do is make it so that the challenge for you as a player is in deciding what it is that you want to do, and that the menu itself should never get in the way of that. So again, this is one of the main things that we're focusing on in the final stages of development. So what you've seen in the beta footage here is not final, and we're still working on it. But one of the things that we really wanted to do was to introduce the concept of two-click route building. So if you know you want to build a route from a factory to a town, click, click, route's plumbed in, whether that's road, whether that's rail. Now, for some players, that's not going to be enough control. They're going to want to be able to do step by step to make that route follow the most efficient way, or the most beautiful way, or the most realistic way. And that's totally possible. But for other players, they simply want that connection to be made. So we've tried to make that as simple as possible. Yeah, I was also thinking, I'm not sure if you meant the line building, the line management, or actually the road building. But in terms of the road building, yeah, it's not final yet. And I've already heard that you cannot say what's going to be final in the end. But I'm very curious how it's going to be, because with Transport Fever 2, it was oftentimes build a road, oh, it doesn't fit, demolish it, try it again, do it again. I hope we can see something coming up there. Anyhow, here's another new thing. We are now at 4:53. This is the new specialization system, where we can see some parts of it. Like here on the left-hand side, we can see a specialized warehouse, and the right-hand side, a specialized station. What is this specialization about anyhow?
So you've got 4 different basic specializations, and I'm going to try and remember them. You've got bulk goods, you have liquids, you have finished products, and then you have flatbed goods, so items like steel or lumber. And then you have the generic warehouse construction option as well. If you use the specialized, so let's say we were talking about sand earlier on. So if you bring sand in and you store it within a bulk goods warehouse, you will be able to store more of it, and it will load onto trucks faster. So that, think about it as being trucks, trains, whatever, right? There are 3 separate components to each loading and unloading that you do. You have the vehicle that you're loading onto. You have the loading mechanism that it's using. So at the stop in question, is it a dedicated bulk goods stop, or is it generic, or is it for liquids? And then there is the storage of those materials there in the warehouse. If you match sand, which is bulk goods, with bulk goods and bulk goods at every single stage, you'll get maximum speed of loading. Now, the downside to that, because you'll go like, well, why would I build anything else? So firstly, you lack flexibility. You can't then go, oh, I've got some oil I need to store here as well. You'd have to build a separate warehouse and a separate unloading structure, and you'd need a truck that could then handle the shipment of oil. So cost is a big factor. Flexibility is a big factor. And also these specialists can be more polluting than using the simpler, slower mechanics that come by default.
Okay, yeah, well, that seems also like you can also get quite lost in this mechanic, because you will need to make some decisions on what to prioritize. It's not so clear anymore which vehicle is the best. You need to focus on a strategy.
Yeah, historically, it always used to be buy the newest vehicle. Not anymore, because now vehicles have speed ratings for unload. They have, of course, the decay rate that they get through. Vehicle maintenance is incredibly important in the new game. And the overall capacity that they've got. So sometimes it might be worth using a last generation vehicle simply because it has one factor that is slightly better. And that could be something like it's low emission, or it has greater levels of storage, or its loading speed is superior. So it's all about offering choice to the player. And if you are want to get the most efficient, most heavily optimized line you can, then you choose the optimal items. But if you can still make a very good profit from the game simply by using the most basic, generic, one-size-fits-all solution, no matter what you're doing.
Then it's more of a building of a pretty building decision what you do, and not something which is really critical for the management part?
It's critical if you want to play at the highest levels of difficulty and you want to be the most efficient possible. If you're just building to make something attractive, you can turn it off. You can keep it simple. There's no reason to restrict yourself to having to play. We want players to play however they want to, and we want them to have a good time while doing so. And the difficulty is we want to make sure that the challenge is right there for players who really want to beat this game. Whereas for players who just want to play with the game rather than play the game, we want those options in there as well. And we think we've got it.
So now I just paused here at 7:44, and I think what we can see here is the new map generation things, like we can see mountainous terrain mixed with non-mountainous terrain. That was a little bit difficult to do in the old version. So you changed that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it worked in the old version, but it was limited what you could actually achieve. This time around, maps are generated using a node-based system and a sub-biome-based system. So in the subarctic, which is our new environment, you have these craggy mountain ranges that then move through kind of a tundra landscape into swamps at the bottom level and lakes interspersed with those swamps. And the game knows which biomes mix with which sub-biomes. So it always looks natural. It never looks like, well, that shouldn't sit next to mountains. No, that doesn't make any sense. So there is a logical progression in how those maps come about. And obviously you have to pick the kind of map style that you want. Using the map generator, you can make a ridiculously difficult map, or you can make one that's going to be an absolute delight to work with. Again, it comes down to what's the level of challenge that you want as a player.
So speaking of biomes, we also have the industry is adjusting to their surroundings, right?
That's right. Yeah, well, industries are based on their surroundings. So you won't get, I mean, the most obvious one is that in a dry desert map, you're not going to have the fish industry, whereas oil will spawn in different places based on what type of map you're on. So not every industry is on every map, giving you a different experience. And I mean, that's the other thing, is that the maps generate differently based on the environment type, but also the industry types that you get there are different on a per environment basis. So you can have a completely different experience between each game that you play.
So now by 9:23, we can see a little bit about the new visual systems considering weather and day and night cycle. But as I've heard, it's only visual, right?
It's completely visual. We've thought about, do we want this affecting gameplay or not? And if it affects gameplay, how will we control that? So anybody who's played Transport Fever before will know that we work on a lot of abstracted layers. So time moves in a very strange way. If you stop and think about it, it moves in a very strange way in the game. But when you're playing it, it feels quite natural. The size of maps is another good example, is our maps are an abstracted size. If you were to look at, well, hold on, there's no way that I would take a large flight over such a short distance. And you go, but it makes sense within the context of the abstraction that we're working. So weather is the same thing. If we wanted weather and day-night cycle to be built into the game itself, we would have to completely rethink the abstract nature of the game, which is something that would be an entirely different experience. Now, that might be something we explore in a future game, but in this one, we wanted to put the controls in the hands of the players. So for cloud conditions or for the day-night cycle, it's entirely their choice based on how do you prefer to play. Equally, if you've ever played a game, a building game particularly, that has a day-night cycle, you turn it off because it's nice to look at, but try building in the night. It's always incredibly difficult. So we didn't want to have it forced upon players, knowing that many of them would turn it on as a novelty feature anyway. So we've made it that it's a very easy to turn on novelty feature if you want to see your cities, your networks come to life at night.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I remember playing Cities in Motion, and the night cycle was actually also difficult because the people getting on the journey at 7 o'clock in the morning arrive at 2 o'clock in the night, because obviously the speed of time is not realistic at all. But yeah, nevertheless, I wonder what the feedback of the viewers is going to be, whether they want to have the day-night cycle anyway, if it doesn't affect the gameplay. I'm curious about your feedback out there, so feel free to leave that in the comments. Now, that's already the end of the demonstration video we've got. However, there's at least one thing I want to know something about. I've heard that money isn't the only thing anymore that we are going to aim at. That's probably a good thing, because in the old version, you quickly got to the point where you basically got infinite money and you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely true. And it's about having everything in a Tycoon game. Everything is about pressure. And where does that pressure come from? You have the goal, and the goal might be make as much money as possible. What's in the game to stop you making as much money as possible? Now, if I've got a profitable route, then maintenance and laying down track or putting out new vehicles, that's where my major expenses come. And then maintaining those vehicles is going to take some of the money back again, but I'm still just making profit. So now you have to think about, well, what are you going to spend that on? What is your overall objective? Cities are a major factor. They are the other objective. Making tons of money, easy. Can you make tons of money while making the cities happy enough to grow at maximum speed? Can you fill the demands that they have in order to keep that growth going as fast as possible? And can you build in such a way that it doesn't upset the citizens of that city? Do you care? It doesn't really. If you are delivering maximum passengers, maximum freight to make that city happy, do you care if there's a bit of pollution? It's going to make them unhappy, but that's the choice for you to make. Do you build extra buildings, extra facilities in the area in order to improve the mood of cities further to get them growing? So the two factors in the game are making the profit in order to be able to continue playing. But if you want to grow the biggest cities possible, you're going to have to listen to what cities want.
So in Transport Fever 2, I was sometimes confused by the numbers, or like the relation between the costs of different things. For example, a tunnel half across all the map costs 30 million euros, and a single train also costs 30 million euros, the same as a tunnel across half the map, and that doesn't feel like in the right relation. But then maybe I shouldn't see the money as an important thing. Maybe money is just a side thing, and you're actually focusing on the other stuff in the game.
Well, it's a Tycoon game, so obviously the money's important. But again, you have to think about there is an abstraction to it. Now, I mean, with Transport Fever 2, there were clearly some things that weren't quite priced correctly. And the money-making side of the game made it seem so very, very easy. Once you learned how to play the game, it was really easy to make a lot of money. But everything still moves in an abstract way. So just because it's a 30 million euro tunnel, rather than what in reality would be 3 billion, you kind of go, well, nothing is completely real. What we try to do is balance everything against everything else in the game to make sure that it feels realistic. It won't ever be 100% realistic, but it needs to feel realistic within the world, within the laws of the game as we've set them out.
So that means you have also looked at this in Transport Fever 3, and it will feel more realistic?
It's going to feel, it has to follow the laws of its own world. It's not a simulation of reality. It is it's a game, right? So we're trying to make it so that it feels real enough that you can lose yourself in it and believe that this is a real transport network that you've set up. But the rules that apply to that transport network are incredibly different compared to the real world. If we were to do a real world game, nobody's going to want to set up a route that takes 6 hours to get from one end to the other and then watch it go through that entire journey more than once. You might watch it once for fun, but if you've then got to do that with every single route that you set up, that's not the game we're trying to make.
Okay, well, that's quite a lot of things we have learned today, and now we have to be getting to the end. So, do we have some general information about when is Transport Fever 3 going to be released?
It's coming out in 2026. We are hard at work right now doing optimization. We've got beta testing ongoing, and we've got we're into final polishing. We have added most of the features that we're going to, and we've got quite a few more still to talk about. But we're at the polishing stage right now.
Okay, so now it's in August 2025, so still some month or maybe even a year to go. We are looking forward to that, and certainly there's going to be more content with us on that. And the last final question is maybe publish everything we've just recorded, so this interview.
What? Sorry, pardon? I didn't. What was the question?
Maybe publish the interview on our channels that we've just recorded.
You can totally publish the interview on your channel. Absolutely. That's why I'm sitting here. We're not. I mean, if we were going to do just a casual conversation, we'd have a beer and no microphone. The fact that there's a microphone rather suggests that your intention is to publish this, and you can publish this bit.
Thank you.